In this video, I'm going to talk about let versus const versus var. What does that mean? Now let's get into it. So there's var. This is the original way in JavaScript to create a variable. And there's also let, which is ES6, and const. And let's talk about all these three. So the first one was var. So let's say I wanted to create a variable, and that's what var stands for. Variable first name. And let's just say my name is Ed, and it is. That was, and that still is a correct and legal way of declaring first name, right? We can declare this first name, have it be Ed, and we could, for example, to show the differences, let's create a function called say hello, and here what we could do is we can say console.log first name. And what we could do here is we can go ahead and invoke this function. If we invoke this function, we're going to be able to see that this prints out the first name, which is Ed. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and say node. This file is called let. And if I run this, nothing's happening because I didn't save it. But let's do it again. And we can see that Ed is happening. So, that's what var does. Now, why did I introduce this function? Well, I introduced this function just to show you that this function's available. Rather, inside this function, this variable is available. So, its scope is accessible. So we can access this first name from this function. Now, what we can't do is we can't go the other way around. We can't define it here or declare it inside the function, and then go ahead and print it outside of the function. This will result in an error, right? Doesn't know what first name is. So, again, just to show you that that's what var does, and that's fine. We could definitely use var. Just know that if you do it within a function, it's only scoped within that function. If you do it outside the function, it is considered to be global scope. So, let's keep building this up and talk about what are the differences between var and now let. Let, if we do something like this, and we run this, we're going to see that the same thing applies. However, let allows you to do doc blocks. So these blocks here, you could do something like this. And let's just format the document so it's a little bit different. With prettier, format the document. And there you go. It's a little bit more readable that way, I think. So what does that mean? That means that this variable is only scoped to everything inside these curly braces. So if I run it now, we should get an issue like, hey, we don't know what first name is, so I can't run this for you, Ed. And that's because of these curly braces. That's the main idea behind let, right? We can have it if it's within a function as well, because a function does have its own curly braces. Well, that means it is only scoped to that block. So it's blocked, scoped, right? That's what that means. Again, what's the big deal here? Well, this feature was introduced so that we can protect ourselves as developers from global variables, because we know global variables will have side effects. If any client, any person, any code that's accessing and tweaking, modifying that variable, well, our code throughout our program will have that side effect, and that may or may not be exactly what we want, and that could introduce a bug, and so on and so forth. So let is the answer to that. Now, the last thing I would mention, just to kind of close this up, is const. That means that const means that it's a constant, meaning that we cannot change this again. And by the way, in programming languages, what is the naming convention? The naming convention is that everything should be uppercase so that we know it's a constant. But in this case, it doesn't matter whether it's lowercase or not. I'm just showing you that what matters is this const keyword. And what that means is if we have const here, of course we can run this. That's not going to be the problem. First name. Did I save this? I didn't name it correctly. So it has to be just like this. And of course we could do this and it gets Ed, but what we can't do is we cannot say, hey, first name, let's go ahead and change it to Jordan, right? We cannot do this because that's what the const keyword prevent us from doing. And you can see here that it'll say assignment to constant variable. So this is a constant variable. We can't change it, even if we did it outside of the function. So the function has nothing to do with it, by the way. I was just showing some quick examples. So even this right here, take out the function, we would get something like this. Let's clear this for a second. Bear with me for a second, and let's run it again. We can see that here in line number 6, this is line number 6. We cannot do this. Why? Because the assignment is to a constant variable. So we can't do that. Now, one thing to note, and we haven't talked about it yet, but we will in further videos, so look for those videos as they come. But if you have a list, if you have an array here, like Ed and Jordan, this is something to keep an eye on. Is that you can go ahead and change this, right? You can go ahead and affect the array and say, hey, go ahead and push this value, which value, let's say LeBron, to this, and that should be fine, right? Because what's happening is that we're not changing the assignment to that list or to that array. It's still pointing to it. What we are changing is the array itself. So, of course, this would still work. What we can't do, though, again, what we can't do is we can't say, hey, first name, let's reassign that to something else or to another list so that we don't get confused, right? Like a new list. We cannot do this, right? Because that's breaking that idea, right? We are reassigning it, and it is a constant variable. So it's something to watch out for. Happens in multiple languages, and if you've seen my Python videos, you'll know that this happens too in Python. We have to be careful with when we assign a value to a constant variable. If it's a list, well, that's holding the reference to the list, and that's not changing if we keep pushing to the list, right? We keep adding elements to the list. That's not changing the reference to the list. This would be changing the reference to the list or to that object, and that is not legal. In other words, that is illegal. I'm hoping this makes sense. We'll get more and more into this, but this is the big intro to what is var, the var keyword. That's the original JavaScript way of declaring variables. What's let and const? Well, this is the ES6 way, right, that protects us from doing some things that are very potential for us creating bugs. Has a lot of potential for us creating bugs. So I'm hoping this is making sense, and there's more to come.